Uh, so I'm going to record this. So Dave is our speaker today, and
And I'll introduce myself partway through the presentation.
okay, cool. So I'm excited about this because not only is this something that I am dealing with right now, because I am encountering work that I don't enjoy, and I need Dave's advice. And if I have problems like this, I want Dave's advice on this. So I'm excited that you're able to give it to us today.
Okay.
I know it's going to be great, and we're going to record this and publish it on YouTube for later. But I'm going to just let you take it from here, Dave.
Okay.
Oh,
Awesome.
I will
Uh,
add, if there are questions that you have while we're doing it, just put them in the chat. I will watch those for Dave, and that way
yeah.
Dave doesn't have to watch them.
Yeah. And David, if something is a question that makes sense for me to answer right then, that'd be great. Just
Okay.
interrupt
Okay.
me. Just
I
interrupt
will.
me.
I will.
Okay.
Cool.
Um, Great to be on. Thank you for the honor of being on the fifth Wednesday meetup. Hey guys, how many of you guys would love to be able to reduce your workload? Me too. All right. This is for you. All right. Let me share my screen and we'll get going. All right. You guys see this? See my screen? All right. Good. So let's get going. So reduce your workload with the DADDA funnel. DADDA, why is it called DADDA? Well, one reason is DADDA is easy to remember. It's a good acronym. And the other is that it is very, very effective. So now what I want you guys to do is, as we're going through this, take a few notes. You want to have some questions, but start thinking about your time, how you spend your time. Where is it in this presentation that like resonates the most with you? And then we'll have the Q&A session, maybe in the middle, depending upon how you guys want to work this, and definitely at the end. But I love talking about this subject. I'm fascinated with time because it is kind of a fixed quantity in a certain way. In other ways, it's not. All right, so our goal, when it comes with our lives and with our time, it's not necessarily for us to fit more into each one of our days. We don't want to keep jamming and jamming and jamming, and then we have no margin in our lives. What we want to be doing is to produce the results we want, maybe more results, or maybe the same results with less time. So given the audience of this, all you guys, you're entrepreneurs, and you get paid for the value that you provide to your clients. You get paid for the results that you provide, not always for your time or your effort. It's results. If you don't produce results for your clients, then they'll go elsewhere. So a lot of time management is based upon like one-dimensional thinking. So in other words, you prioritize your day, and I do this too. I've got my checklist here, and there's a screenshot of it. You know, every day I prioritize, I put one task in front of the other. That's one-dimensional thinking. Okay, what do I need to do first in that at that particular time that I'm working? The way I do it here is I've got the stuff on the left is my priorities. The stuff on the right up the top is my schedule. And then the lower right over here is a reminder to me that I only want to check email 3 times a day. Don't always stick to it. Yes, I think it was the other day I only did it twice. So we'll talk about this as a great time management principle, how you can get a hold of that and control of that. So that's one-dimensional thinking as prioritizing, and we want to move beyond that. So this is pretty classical. I think this is called the Eisenhower matrix. And I think you guys have heard of this before. It's in Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. It's really talks about the urgency and importance matrix when it comes to spending our time. Okay, so you'll see there on the left, the vertical axis is you've got an increasing importance scale, and then that's the vertical, and the horizontal lower right is increasing urgency. That's a way that we can put our tasks into these buckets, something that's maybe very important to do, something that's really urgent to do. So really that's what this means is urgency, is how soon does this matter? In other words, how quickly do we have to get this done? We've got clients that need something, their site is down or they can't get their analytics or whatever it is. That's something that probably is pretty urgent. But importance is related to how much does this matter? In other words, if the client can't get their analytics, does it really matter for their business right now? Or could they wait a day? So really what we want to do with our time is we want to think about all the different tasks that you're doing. Which of those 4 quadrants do most of your tasks fit? What we want to do is we want to go from the lower left quadrant where we have low urgency and low importance, move gradually to where we're doing things that aren't as urgent but have really, really high importance in our business. And if I think I give some examples of that, and if you want some more, we can talk about that. So it's more like you guys have heard the term working on your business versus in it. That's really where we're talking about the important type of things, longer term. So really the problem is we've only got a certain amount of hours each day. But what if we want more? What if we want more out of life? What if we want to do more? What if we say, I've always wanted to run a triathlon, but I got to make sure I have my successful business, yet it's taken all the hours I have to run my business. How do I fit this triathlon in? Or the way I'm running my business now, oh man, it would be great if I could add SEO, if I could add different layers of SEO, if I could start doing ads management, whatever it is, I want to add those things. But man, I'm just already up to my eyeballs and my day's always so busy. How in the world am I going to do this? So what we end up doing a lot of times to be able to fit this in is we shift our hours around. We will say, well, I'm going to work on the morning on this and the afternoon on this. Ultimately, though, we get frustrated because something is going to suffer. When you say no to one thing, or when you say, let me back up. When you say yes to something, you almost automatically are saying no to something else. So prioritization doesn't create more time. That's part of the problem, that one-dimensional thinking. And even the two-dimensional thinking, we're still doing a certain amount of prioritizing there. It just doesn't create more time. All right, so I promised I'd tell you who am I. You can see that's being part of my family. It's a little bit older picture. I have a grandson, but I live in Irvine, California. Been married 40 plus years to the woman in the lower left there. And I was a semiconductor engineer and a corporate executive for 30 years. I managed teams globally, India, China. I did that for a while, had a great career. It was a lot of fun. I have 6 patents. You can see them behind me on my wall. I'm proud of those. And I've done WordPress for over 9 years and a few iPhone apps as well. I've also, when I first started doing web development, I was doing Joomla. Any of you guys heard of Joomla? Any of you guys ever used it?
Yep.
Okay, so if you ever, luckily you chose WordPress or something else.
Yeah.
Don't choose Joomla. That was,
Right.
it's like I'm really smart, and I had a book I was going through it, and it's like it just didn't click. It didn't click for me. When I remember when I was searching on Google for how to do stuff with Joomla, all this WordPress stuff kept coming up. So that's kind of why I switched. And I've coached, hundreds of entrepreneurs through a different business that I have with my great business partner and one of my best friends, Larry Broughton. So we do that as well. We just got back from in Atlantic City, a great event where we coached 15. We had a program for 15 disabled veterans, and that was awesome to be able to help them in their business. And I also volunteer in a local jail ministry doing some services here in Orange County. That's a blast. So this discussion is really inspired by a book by Rory Vaden called Procrastinate on Purpose. He talks about 5 permissions to multiply your time. So it's been inspired by that. We've adapted it and expanded upon it to what we feel like works the best for folks. So what he talks about in this book is we're going to create a new factor to this matrix. The first, right, we talked about urgency. How soon does this matter? Importance is how much does this matter? But really what we want to talk about is significance. And I may have said this before, but it really is, how long is this going to matter to you and your business and your life? What can you start thinking about that will actually create great significance in your life? So let me give you an example. One would be is if you're going to service a lot of different clients, you're going to need to be really efficient with your time. If you're going to service your most important clients, that means you've got to be effective. You'll be effective. But what we're talking about is efficacy. You may create a training program so you can create more significance with that and have a longer lasting impact. A great example of this also is creating SOPs for your business, standard operating procedures that you can use over and over again to train new folks as they come into your team. You're kind of doing it once, and yet you get a ripple effect of doing that task, having that available as time goes. So you're saving yourself time in the future. So, question for you guys. How do we normally decide what to do? Is it logically or emotionally? I know you guys are all on mute, but you can unmute yourself and answer that. Logically or emotionally?
If I'm honest, it's probably more emotional for me. Oh no, someone said something. Ah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I even though it needs to be more logical, I would agree. A lot of times, like, oh, I got an email, let me hurry up and respond, when no, I don't really need to. I need to have them more orderly.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we'd probably all agree with that. I mean, it really is emotional, right? Otherwise, we wouldn't really have a problem deciding on what to do next. So a couple of examples is exactly what you said, Trish, your emails, right? It's like, oh, I know that I can put that off because clients don't need to know right away, but it's like, oh, it's the email. I like having that clear inbox. I like to not to have anybody depending upon me for anything, right? Those are emotional. That's emotional thinking. Another thing is like with my to-do list, I print it out. Oh my gosh, I love crossing things off. It makes me feel good, right? That's emotional. And it's okay. It's okay. But what's important is to realize that. Okay. So what we got to give ourselves, if we're going to give ourselves get ourselves a handle on this time management issue, problem, challenge, however you want to term it, the people who are really successful at creating more time, they give themselves permission, and they give themselves 5 emotional permissions to do certain things, right? We've all heard about, somebody who's been really successful in life, business, have what we want, whatever. We're like, how do they fit so much in a 24-hour day where I can just barely bring my head up over my keyboard? So they give themselves 5 emotional permissions. So we're going to talk about this framework. And as you guys are thinking through this, make sure you write a few questions down, things down, items that you can really hold on to and take advantage of, because, and we'll have some action steps at the end. But one of the things that I don't want to have you guys do is be on here and not take anything away from this, because that's a waste of your time. It's a waste of my time. To me, that's the most important. And if you get one thing out of this, one little aspect, a different way of looking at things, that's going to be a successful time for you guys. So really, the question that you need to ask yourself or think through here is, we want you to multiply your time by giving yourself permission to spend time on things today that create more time tomorrow. So in other words, ask yourself this question is, what can I spend time on today that I can leverage tomorrow or a week from now or a month from now? Okay. And so think through that. And that's like the overall arching thought as we get through, go through this flow. Okay. All right. So really the first thing that we're going to do is, as you have these tasks, the first thing in this framework is you're going to delete it. You're going to ask yourself a question. Is this task something I can live without? All right. So the emotional permission that you need to give yourself is ignore. And this is one of the revelations that I got from Rory Vaden's book, is this because our going through our to-dos and checking them off and all that, it's all emotional. If we give ourselves emotional permissions, it will help us. We've got to give ourselves that permission to ignore a task, because if we have that task written down somewhere, if we've written down in the past, at some point we thought it was a good idea to do it. Well, maybe at this point it may not be. And so we're going to have to give ourselves the permission to just throw it away, put it over on the side, etc. Now, this is one of the advantages of doing everything on paper, is you actually can throw it away. When you have a task manager, you're gonna have to physically go in and delete some of these things. Okay, so here's some things that you can start deleting that will help you. And as you see these, if you look down at the bottom left here, right over here, is you see a blank line. This would be for you to be able to, as you're writing down, you just say, hey, here's something that I want to make sure I delete in the future that's not on this list. So one of the things is redecision. You guys know that every time we decide to do something, and then we come back and redecide that we're going to do it, that's a lot of mental energy and a lot of waste of time. It's like we need to decide to do it for at least a period of time and then come back and look at it. But if we're constantly thinking about it, that's taking up mental energy, bandwidth, and it's a waste of time. Now, watching TV. Now, what I mean by some of these things is kind of like excessive, right? If you're somebody who will every evening watch 4 or 5 hours of TV, then I think you need to rethink how you do this. The important thing is for this is to use it. You can use it as a reward. Say, I'm only going to watch it on Friday nights or Saturday nights. Of course, unnecessary meetings, long emails. I mean, if you're gonna type something out that's really long, that takes a lot of time versus having a meeting with somebody. Unnecessary change, intermittent changes on things. Here's a big one: confrontation emails. You need to pick up the phone with somebody and talk to them. Emails should be shared for information only and not for expressing emotion or you're pissed off at somebody, etc. And then doing others' work. There's a great book. Who's the author? I can't remember. It's like 1 Minute Manager. It talks about taking somebody else's work and putting it on your shoulders like the monkey on your back. It's easy for us to do that. It's easier for us to have our client say, well, could you do this for me? Oh, sure, no problem. I'll do it for free. So doing others' work. And then gossip, sharing your opinion. It doesn't mean you're not going to share your opinion, but just be careful how often you do this, because typically where you're sharing your opinion is not something you have control over, and it's not going to really matter that much. Unreasonable people, thinking about the next, right? Stay in the present, stay in the moment. Doing explanations versus experiences. So one of the things that we try to do is we do a lot of show me. Instead of describing it, we record videos and send to clients and everybody. Unnecessary double checking, custom versus leveraged, right? We all want to create the custom thing. We're very creative folks. We want to do that, but that takes a lot of time and support. And of course, over volunteering. All right. So the next is, after we take a task, our set of tasks, and we delete them, let's see if we can automate these things. Can they be systematized? So we have to give ourselves the emotional permission to invest, and that investing could be time, could be energy, it could be money, any one of these, what I would call currencies that you would want to be able to invest. So some things that you want to invest in is FAQs, creating things in a way it can be searched and found so you don't have to recreate them. So you have to understand how you search. Online bill pay using something like Quicken. Once you set it up, it really helps you keep track of your finances, making sure that you have backups appropriately and you sync your changes to something both maybe locally as well as online. And then social media management, do that with some kind of a program like Hootsuite, Social Loom, there's Social Bee, there's bunches of them that keep coming up. And then past client follow-up. Try to automate this as much as you can. Online learning, create videos for your team. Drop shipping, sales funnel to filter hot prospects. And you can use your active campaign drip, etc. for that. And then anytime you can eliminate think time, like do block scheduling so you're not shifting, or do a short chart. Okay. So these are some things that you can kind of automate in a way. One of the things that I had tried for a while was having Daphne, one of my virtual assistants, create a meal chart for us. And so that helped for a little bit.
Can I ask a question before we move on?
Yeah.
Can you go back there again? What do you mean by automating past client follow-up as a way of saving money or saving time and money, I guess?
Oh, well, you can use like active campaign. You can put somebody in there and tag them and say, I'm just going to check in with them on a 3-month basis. And you can create a funnel and our flow that'll automatically kick off an email to them. Now, if you don't, so here's one of the things is you don't want to necessarily automate something that's not going to take a lot of your time, right? It could take you even more time to automate something than it does to actually just do it for a little bit. And I've seen people do this. It's like, oh, we got to automate this whole system because we're going to have hundreds of clients coming in and all that. And you have 1 or 2 clients and, it just doesn't make sense to automate something until it makes sense to automate, until it's really going to save you time. If you have in your mind saving time as the reason to automate, that will be a good the thing to judge against. Help to help you make your decision. Okay. The next is in this framework, excuse me, is delegate. Can this task be performed by somebody else? And the emotional permission you have to give yourself at this point is imperfect. Okay, because one of the big obstacles for us wanting to or allowing ourselves to delegate is that we think it's going to get done worse by somebody else, which indeed does or can happen. So delegating, there's great areas of our lives that we can delegate to. Having an office assistant, a business coach, and multipliers almost always have business coaches. Accountant, bookkeeper, financial planner, lawyer, insurance agent, real estate agent, graphic designer, web designer. This is us web designers. We don't want to delegate web design to somebody else generally, but there are times when we may want to, if our clientele gets big enough, that we might want to delegate part of this. I can't remember the name of the service that does the design for you, that I know some of the folks in our advanced forum are taking advantage of.
Dear Designer?
What is it?
Dear Designer?
Yeah. And then, of course, like travel coordinator, agent, cleaning your house, nanny, gardener, all these different things you can actually pay somebody to do. Number one, if you don't like to do it, but number two, if it's causing you a lot of time, and of course, if you have the money, and oftentimes you will have the money. You think about the time that it's going to free you up if you get rid of some of these items to somebody else, it will be amazing.
Anecdotally,
yeah,
it was a few years ago, my dad told me, David, for what you charge an hour, you shouldn't be cleaning your own house. You should hire a house cleaner. And I felt so much like a loser, like I can't even clean my house. Then I realized I hate cleaning my house. It was hiring someone to come in to do it not only made it feel good to come to my own home because it was clean, but I kind of needed my dad to give me permission to hire someone to do it in a way, because it was a little humiliating for me, but it was huge. It was a huge help. And he's exactly right. It helped me have that time back to do stuff that I wanted to do, but also they could do it quicker in an hour and better than I could have within an hour because they're just doing it all day. But like, yeah,
David, Danielle, and I had that same conversation. Like, to spend money on a housekeeper seemed trite
yeah,
to me. Like, we've got the time. Why are we going to spend the money on this? And Danielle was like, because I would rather spend my time,
yes,
going out to dinner with you, or,
right.
doing something else. Like, it's worth, to me, it's worth the money to have that time back.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go. And what you're doing a lot of times when you are able to give up some of these things to somebody else, you're actually trading those tasks for what can be experiences, right? New experiences, new things. And when you're looking at this list, yeah, there's a bunch of stuff. Hopefully one or two of these things that come in your mind. It's like, yeah, I really need to outsource that, or I really need to find somebody to do that. You can also consider something that where you're outsourcing just part of it. So, for example, let's take the house cleaner one. You don't have to have somebody coming in every single week. Maybe you bring in somebody once a month or once every couple months to do deep cleaning, but then you kind of do it yourself. One of the things that you can also do, which kind of is an automate delegate, is when it comes to house cleaner, get one of those robots. Might work for your home. We've had one for years. It's amazing how much better it cleans and keeps our house clean and it does save us time. So some of these things, when you're thinking through it, it doesn't have to be you're delegating everything. Like even a mechanic, maybe you want to do a few things on your car. Maybe you like to wash your car. It gives you exercise. You don't have to take it to a car wash. But something like, certain things from a mechanical point of view, you would want to delegate those. And maybe I used to change my own oil for years. Finally got tired of it, right? But I never would do major things. So think about these things in terms of a partial delegation. That can work as well. The whole idea is to get you guys your time back. Okay, so then the next is, after you've delegated a bunch of stuff, is defer. You can say delay, defer, but it's, can this task wait until a later time? You have to give yourself the emotional permission of incomplete. So it's different than up here where you're deleting something, you're kind of getting it out of your mind. Here, this is going to stay in your mind or stay on your task list, but you got to be okay with keeping it where it's not done. Now, I talked about email. We talked about it. People can wait. You minimize intermittent change, increase your focus, and multiply your time. So down here, like I said, this is a reminder for me to only check 3 times a day. And I do pretty well with it, but somehow you got to create yourself a system to where you're doing that. If email is something where you feel like you can get your time back and your focus. If you're checking email all during the day, man, that's got to really interrupt your productivity. Meeting topics. There's some questions that can wait for a meeting. You don't have to like fire off a whole big email to somebody. Maybe it's like, this can wait until we have our regular meetings, which is a great way to make sure you keep communication going with key stakeholders in your life. Sometimes I violate this because I'm excited something about my work and my wife's here. And I'll go leave and I'll go talk to her about something. And then 10 minutes later, I'll talk to her about something else. Well, what I should be doing is writing those things down and just talk once about it. Okay. Paperwork. Save doing it until later at off-peak times, or better yet, delegate it. Yeah, I've got a place in my office over there where it's a to file. Usually what I do is about once a month, then I go file it in my file cabinets or throw it away or scan it, whatever I do. But I don't have something like every single day start organizing stuff. Shopping, of course, you can do a personal assistant, but keep a running list. We have ours on the fridge, and whenever we're on the way home, there's a store. It's like, okay, let's stop off. We rarely make a special trip to the store because that takes time. Phone calls. like one of the things that I do for my clients is I have usually an hour, a couple hours, whatever it is, once a week, where I contact them about status of their project, or follow up with folks that are on my customer management system. So it gives me a chance to have uninterrupted focus for them during that time. Paying bills, same kind of thing. Thank you notes, let them pile up, and then write them all out. So you're kind of batching things here. All right, so the last part of this is attention. So you want to give yourself the permission to protect your time, because it is really, 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 really valuable. So you want to focus your attention on what's the most significant use of your time. So these are great questions to ask yourself. And we'll run through these a little bit quick, but, jot something down as we're talking about these. Is what you're working on, is it creating the best results for you and for your clients? I mean, is it making the greatest contribution to my family, to my business, to my country? Is it making the impact that I really want it to make? Or am I just like, is it doing busy time? Is it providing enough value to my clients? Are you making the most out of the available time that you have? Is this helping you to be your highest self? I've been lucky in so many ways that I've enjoyed exercise. And so I've been exercising since junior high on a regular basis. But that's one of the things that's sacred to me. That helps me to be my highest self. What about developing and refining systems to leverage others? Are you doing that? So if it doesn't fit in one of these things, then it ends up being a distraction, a temptation, a pressure, and quite often it could be another person's priority, not yours. So here's some potential game changers that you can look through here. We'll run through them quickly. Regular date nights with your spouse, with your family, with your kids. I don't know if I have it in here. It may come, but like weekly family dinners, those are amazing. Those create great experiences. Becoming debt-free, staying healthy, I mentioned that. And especially giving yourself permission to sleep and investing time and money into, maybe you need a personal trainer. Why not? But giving yourself that permission to invest in yourself. Media, be careful of that. We talked about that a little bit, about what you read and what goes into your mind. And invest into like marketing automation. We talked a little bit about that. And of course, treating people right. Having a large amount of integrity, doing things the same way, and having a level of honesty in how you deal with your clients. Brian and I were talking about, we just got today notice from a client. They're giving us almost a pretty significant web design win. We've kind of talked about it a little bit in our Curious Ants meetings, but we just got notified today, and we were talking about what is one of the reasons why they did that to us, and they didn't actually consider anybody else, is because of trust. They had a lot of trust in us. And then of course your faith, whatever faith that you have, that's a great thing to invest in. Good early decisions. The younger you are, the more amplified your choices are. MJ DeMarco talks about that in The Millionaire Fast Lane, and how as the younger you are, and certain decisions that you make can have just far reaching impact, financial, health, all that stuff. So think about who you're going to invest in your life. Who are you going to be mentoring? Your virtual assistants, if you have some, or people on your team. And then of course, making sure you've got a vision, mission, and core values, and know what your strengths are. Those are things you need to be working towards, because you have your vision is like, what do you see in the future? Why you're doing what you're doing. And if you don't have that, it's easy to get off track. But you want to evaluate the significance that you want to create in life through some of those filters. Okay, so here we're going to give you, I want you to come away with this with a little bit of an action plan. So write down 3 things that you're going to start doing. And it doesn't have to be 3. It could be 1 or 2. I have 3, but I mean, it could be 5, but don't overwhelm yourself. Maybe it's just 1. What are you going to start doing? And as I mentioned before, if you say yes to one thing, you're potentially saying no to another. So what are the 3 things that you're going to stop doing? Maybe one thing that you'll start doing is every time you do a task that's a new task, you record a video as you're doing it. And so you start creating a library of videos, which is a valuable asset if you're going to sell your business at some point. And what thing that you might stop related to that is you're going to stop just hurrying and doing it, making sure you take the time to explain it. So what are 3 things that you will stop doing? Maybe it's you're going to stop watching so much TV. Maybe you're going to stop listening to a podcast or that's not really helping you achieve what your vision and your mission is. So then the next action is after this meeting, or you can do it even now if you want, calendar them or set reminders in your phone. Use the electronic tools we've got. Set an alarm that happens like 2 times a day as a reminder to say, stop. I'm going to stop putting myself down even. And maybe it's 2 times a day. I'm going to start thinking about what I can eliminate. Or maybe it's, I'm going to, every day I'm going to look at my task list through the DADDA funnel. That's it. So that's the last thing that this is the last slide, but I really want you guys to come away with some kind of an actions. Make this worthwhile of your precious time. We've been going for about 45 minutes. Make this time really, really worthwhile. Maybe this is a place where you're going to kick off doing things a little bit differently in your business. Maybe you're going to need to think about, well, what do I really want in my life? Maybe you're going to need to think about, man, I am really wasting my time. I need to, for the next week, I'm going to write down everything I'm doing every single day. And then at the end of the week, I'm going to review that and see, wow, where was I really wasting my time?
Could you show the slide that has the complete DADDA funnel on it, please?
Yeah.
There it is. So what is the deferral loop in this?
Yeah.
Or is that just something that's not really what we're worried about?
Yeah, I neglected talking about that. So it really is that if you're going to defer a task, I can go into this more detail. So one of the things that you might say is like, well, if this task can wait till later, I don't have to do it today. I think I can put it off till next week. Okay. So now when next week comes, then you got to think to yourself, well, let me put it through this loop. Maybe I don't have to do it anymore. Because maybe the client just told me that I was going to do this for. Maybe they said, well, they're going to go with somebody else. Or, whatever that is. Then maybe you can delete it. But then maybe you're like, as I think about this task, I can't delete it, but then, I can automate it. Or, as I think about it, there's no reason why, like Brian Valentino on our team, there's no reason why Brian can't do it. I mean, he's really good. He's smart. He speaks well. He can record a video, create an SOP for me. Why am I having to do it? And then it could be that, well, I'm going to defer it another week. And then as you're like, wow, I've deferred this for the last 3 months, I guess I should probably delete it. So that's kind of what that means.
Yeah. I like this a lot. And I think one of my action items is I've categorized my Trello board, which I use to manage my clients, in a particular way, but I'm going to add a new dimension to my Trello board, which is kind of a tag, or at least allow me to kind of use this system to decide tasks. So like what I'll often do is I'll read something on Search Engine Land. I'll throw it into my Trello board because I'll be like, this is a great idea, or I need to read this more depth later, or I need to change a process on Curious Ants according to this. And often I'll just forget about it. But if I use this system, I can then go through those and make sure there's something to it. You know, maybe by the time I get to it, it's just like, oh yeah, that's totally obsolete, not helpful. I'll just delete it.
Yeah.
Or maybe I can look at a way to automate it or delegate it to someone else. Or maybe it just needs to be deferred to a later date. But the way I've traditionally done Trello is I have a category for doing, which is what I'm working on now, category for waiting, which is I'm waiting on someone else's approval or input or something like that. And then I have a someday list, and then I have a reference list. Someday is, I'll get to this someday. And reference is, hey, I need to remember the URL to their website or their branding guidelines. So that goes in the reference list. But if I add this dimension and integrate this with my Trello, I think it'll make my Trello board more effective and helpful, because what usually happens, I just keep throwing more stuff into my doing list, and it's no longer a doing list. Now it's a list of mishmash of things that I came across. It's really the someday list, but I haven't used. Anyway, that's one of my action steps, is to integrate this into my Trello system to make my Trello board actually useful and not just, oh, there's a lot of stuff on there. Now I don't even know what to begin with.
Yeah, that's a great point. One of the things that I do, and like Nathan has talked about, is he plans his week on Sundays, and I do that also. And there's a lot of stuff that I keep deferring, but it's okay because I'm making a conscious decision to do it. And then in our project management system, I always have things that I want to make sure I go through this loop, have a due date on Sunday. So it forces me to look at it. And at some point, if I'm forced to look at it over and over again, at some point it'll be like, screw this, I'm going to put it off instead of a week, a month, or 2 months. I'm just going to delete it. Right? Because otherwise, if you have a someday list and you never look at it or pare it down, then it becomes almost useless. Right? Yeah. Any other thoughts or questions, or anybody else want to share something, a realization that they had?
I like what David was saying. I tend to have the same, I don't use Trello, but I use Notion, but so it's similar. And I think I like his idea of his like putting those in columns and having the doing, waiting, someday reference. So I think I need to do that some more, because and get them organized better that way. I think that will help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, but don't let it become what it is to me. I mean, that's progress, right? Good for you, right?
Yeah.
But that's why I like this funnel, because it forces me to, okay, it's okay. Yeah, like Dave said, it gives me permission. Dave has just given me permission to delete something out of my Trello board.
Yeah.
But I'm never going to write a Python script that will crawl the entire web and find every possible link building opportunity that I could ever possibly want. It's just never, it's a great idea, but I'm just never going to do it. So David just given me permission to delete something.
That's good.
That
Yeah.
will never happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Which that I think I probably need to go into my list and delete quite a few as well. So that's good.
Yeah, and that's where you start. But I hope you guys like start thinking about the things that you're doing and thinking, okay, how can I make sure I work on stuff that's going to multiply my time in the future?
Yeah.
How can, what is it that I can set up to where the system that I have is going to be like quick and easy, etc.
Yeah.
I have when I do, my SOP and I have that all written down for myself and my assistants, one of the things I have a hard time with is once I have that done, we do at SEO. And while the basics remain the same, there are specific parts that I've taught them to do that over time, it's like, oh, Google's changed a few things here, especially, when I work with Google Business Profile and, certain things are, changed like that. And I'm having trouble, like, actually, it's like, I know they changed, I work with them, but like the SOP is so many different moving parts to it. Is there a way that that could help with that?
Yeah, there's one of the things that I've got on my calendar, and I will confess I defer it more often than I should, is
Uh-huh.
that like I've got my SOPs in different categories, right? There's
Mhm.
design, there's maintenance and stuff like that. One of the things that I do is every quarter I want to take a quick look at those and see, oh, do those need to be updated or not? That's one thing to do. Another thing to think about too is that even any business, I was thinking about this the other day, any business is going to always have to be working on their SOPs.
Yeah.
The only time that they're final is when you sell the business. That's the only time. And even you think about somebody producing something that is, that's like the same over and over and over again as McDonald's, right? They're producing a hamburger. Well, guess what? All of a sudden they find a machine that, they decide to take this robot in that does the flipping instead of having somebody do it. Well, SOPs all of a sudden change. So any business that's moving forward, improving, it's just going to change, especially for us when we're dealing with technology.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It sucks sometimes.
I know.
It
That's
really
for sure.
does. But then I think that there's a lot, those take precedence in our minds a lot of times, but I think there's a lot that just doesn't change.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I mean, David, if you think about your keyword research process,
Right.
maybe there's a few couple tweaks here and there, but I don't know. I don't think so. It stays
Yeah, I
pretty
mean
consistent.
yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. When I started my company, I started writing down my processes, right? For how do I do SEO? And I had them in all kinds of different places. But it wasn't until I started Curious Ants where I had to canonize those as final processes. It was so hard to do it, right? Because I'm like, but this changes. But I was encouraged by my business coach to it's going to be imperfect. Like you said, it's okay. It's still a better process than most people know. And it's still more complete than most people have. And you can always change it later. Once I was getting permission to let it be a little bit imperfect, I realized it doesn't change all that much. So once I had it written down and published on Curious Ants, how to do keyword research, it changed 3 times in the last 3 years, right? Because it doesn't really change. Some of the processes have changed significantly, like how to add Google Analytics, right? When we moved to GA4. But really the process didn't change. I just had to change out the verbiage.
Yeah.
Because how you add it is really the same. It's just, or which reports you use, now they're updated for GA4 in Curious Ants, right? So once you have it written, I think you might find that it probably doesn't change as much as you think.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things is I'll give you guys some thoughts also is that like when I have my SOPs, we have a space at the bottom that has like a revision table. And when I go in, I change it, I put in the date and like a quick little summary of what I changed. Because that way somebody like Brian or myself doesn't have to reread the whole thing or relook at it if they're already familiar with it. It's like, hey, this is just one little thing that changed. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, thank you Dave for giving us this permission to be more productive by giving us permission to delete and delegate and defer. I think that's a great way of thinking of it. And thank you for empowering us with that.
Yeah, you guys are welcome. And if you guys want to talk more about this in some of our next meetings, we can, that'd be fun too.
Yeah, and that's a great transition because this is the 5th Wednesday meetup where we invite the public. Charles snuck in at the last minute.
Hey, Charles.
And
Hey, everyone.
but this is the regular Curious Ants meeting, but when every time there's a 5th Wednesday, we open it up to the public. And because SEO is really not just about keywords and links and all that, sometimes the most effective things for SEO are things like productivity. That's where we kind of take this meetup to kind of stretch and make sure that we're being as effective outside of the exact SEO processes. But at this time, every Wednesday, members of the colony get to attend the regular SEO group consulting group. What are we calling it now? The group coaching. Group coaching is what we decided to call it, right? So most of you all are in that, and we come together and put our heads together and cry sometimes at frustrations of clients or Google or, hey, what about this idea? What about that idea? And it's just a good time that we all look forward to brainstorming and bouncing ideas off each other. So that's what
Highly
Curious
recommended.
Ants is all about, right?
Highly recommended. If you guys
Thank
haven't joined, come and join, at least come for a little bit.
Yeah.
And try us out. It's really good. David, you do a great job at leading us. It's fun.
Thank you. My
Absolutely.
wife knows it's Wednesday because Wednesday night I'm always in a good mood. She's like, you had the group coaching today, didn't you? Yes, I did. She sees the smile on my face because I not only enjoy meeting you, but you all know how much I enjoy this. So
I get so much out of it. It's so
me too.
helpful.
It is.
Same here.
all right. Well, that's all the time we had for today. Thanks again, Dave, for helping
Thank you,
us
Dave.
out.
Thank you.
Reach out to me if you guys have any questions or have any other comments. Be happy to help in any way I can.
We'll put this video on YouTube. I'll send an email to the meetup so that you can see this. There's a page on Curious Ants about it where we'll put the transcript for this video and maybe some of the resources we've used today. But thank you all for your time. I'll look forward to catching up with y'all soon.
All right. Next week.
Thanks.
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 See ya.
Bye.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone. Bye.